AITA for taking my cheating wife to court after discovering that our son isn't mine? I am a 36-year-old man, married to Heather, 34. We have been together for 5 years. We have a 4-year-old son, Owen. The boy has autism, is nonverbal, and needs constant attention. Speech therapy 3 times a week. Occupational therapy twice a week, plus a special preschool program that costs more than my car payment, even with insurance. Last year, Heather started insisting on having another baby. 8 months of trying, and nothing happened. She became obsessive about it. She started keeping charts, taking temperatures, timing everything down to the minute. Nothing worked. She finally suggested we both get fertility tests. The clinic looked more like a spa than a doctor's office. Heather went first, then me. I did the awkward sample collection. The doctor said the results would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, the doctor called, just me, not Heather. He wanted me to come in alone. That was when I knew something was wrong. I went, and the doctor had that specific look, the one someone gets when they are about to completely ruin your life in the next 5 minutes. He pulled out my results and started talking about sperm count and motility. Then he got to the real point. I have obstructive azoospermia. Basically, the pipes are completely blocked, 0 sperm getting through anywhere. The doctor explained it is usually due to a blockage in the ducts. It could be from an old infection, a minor birth defect, or a past injury. Based on the scans, he said it was likely a lifelong condition. He started talking about treatment options, surgery to remove the blockage with a 70% success rate, costing between $8,000 and $12,000. It was easy to understand, but impossible to accept. I just sat there because my brain completely shut down when he said, likely lifelong. Considering Owen is 4 years old, I managed to ask a single question. How long would I have had this condition? The doctor looked at more scans. Based on the severity of the blockage and the tissue scarring, he estimated at least 5 to 7 years, minimum, possibly longer. It definitely was not a recent development. 5 to 7 years minimum. Owen was conceived 4 years and 9 months ago. I thanked the doctor and left. I sat in my car for 20 minutes staring at nothing. I started Googling right there in the parking lot. Every medical site said the same thing. My condition makes a natural pregnancy literally impossible without surgical intervention or extraction, no exceptions. Not low probability, not reduced fertility, impossible. The math was simple and brutal. 0 means 0. No miracles, no exceptions. There was no way Owen was biologically mine. The words on the screen blurred. I had to read the same paragraphs 5 times. Medical journals, fertility clinic sites, research papers, they all said the exact same thing. I opened Owen's baby pictures on my phone, hospital photos, the first few days at home, birthdays. Every memory suddenly felt like evidence of my own stupidity. For years of being a father to someone else's child, while everyone knew but me. I drove home in complete silence. I took the long way through neighborhoods I'd never seen. I needed time before I faced her, before I had to pretend everything was normal. Heather was making dinner when I got there. Owen was in his room, playing with blocks. I told her I had a minor blockage. Nothing serious, totally fixable. She seemed relieved. She said we'd probably be pregnant by the end of the year. I smiled, nodded, and felt absolutely nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep, just doing the math over and over. Sterile for 5 to 7 years. Owen is 4. 0 sperm means 0 chance. Owen was not mine. And here's the thing. When you know something is wrong, you start seeing everything differently. Our neighbor Mark lived 3 houses down. His wife, Stacy, was constantly away for work, like 2 weeks a month traveling, which meant Mark had a lot of free, unsupervised time. And somehow, Mark was always outside right when Heather got home from her job at the boutique. Every day, trimming hedges that didn't need trimming, washing a car that was already spotless, checking his mailbox for the 4th time that afternoon, always there when her car pulled up. I'd never paid any attention to it before, because I'm not some paranoid guy who monitors his wife's every move. But now I had medical proof that Owen couldn't be mine. And suddenly Mark's entire existence looked incredibly suspicious. I started noticing the little details. The way Heather's face would light up when Mark waved her over, how she'd linger talking to him by the mailbox. The casual touches on his arm that lasted half a second too long. Body language I'd completely missed because I trusted her. Mark and Stacy had moved in about 5 years ago, right around when Owen would have been conceived. I started checking our phone bill online. Heather had one number she texted constantly. Hundreds of messages a month. I Googled it. It was Mark's number. I went through months of statements. The pattern was consistent. Sometimes 40 texts in a single day, sometimes video calls that lasted an hour, always during my work hours. Always when Stacy was out of town. The frequency spiked around Owen's birthday, like they were celebrating something together. I checked our bank statements. I started noting charges at restaurants I'd never been to. A cheap motel off Highway 40 on different dates over the last few months. That motel was 12 miles from our house. The boutique was 8 miles in the opposite direction. She'd been driving past her job to meet someone. I checked Heather's Google location history. We both had it on for family safety reasons. She'd been stopping at that same motel on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons for the past 6 months, the same days I worked late. I kept scrolling back. The pattern went back 18 months. Same motel, same days, same duration, usually 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, all time-stamped, all documented, all the proof that she had been living a double life while I was working overtime to pay for Owen's therapy. I called my brother, Tyler. He works as a court clerk at the county courthouse. We met for lunch the next day, and I told him everything. The fertility diagnosis, Owen's age not adding up, the suspicious behavior with Mark, the motel charges, the location history, all of it. Tyler didn't interrupt me once. When I finished, he pushed his plate away. You need a paternity test. Not because there is any doubt at this point, but for legal documentation. When you file for divorce, you will need official proof that Owen is not yours. Otherwise, you will be on the hook for child support forever, no matter what your medical records say. Can I do it without telling her? I asked. Tyler nodded. You're his legal father right now. You're on the birth certificate. You have every legal right to conduct medical tests. He leaned forward. Listen to me carefully. Don't say a word to Heather. Nothing about the test, nothing about your suspicions, nothing. Act completely normal. The second you tip her off, you give her time to prepare. Get the proof first. It made sense. The following Saturday, I told Heather I was taking Owen out for some father-son bonding time. Ice cream and arcade games. She seemed happy with the idea. We sat outside eating ice cream. Owen loved the chocolate. Then I drove to one of those walk-in DNA testing places. The woman behind the counter gave me this sad, knowing look. I guess she sees guys like me all the time. The test was incredibly simple. Cheek swab for him, cheek swab for me. Done in 30 seconds. I paid the express fee to get the results in 3 business days. We spent the rest of the afternoon at the arcade. Owen loved the games, even though he didn't really understand them. He just randomly mashed buttons while I fed quarters into the machines. I felt like scum the whole time. This kid had no idea his entire world was about to fall apart. No idea that the man he thought was his father was about to disappear. No idea his mother had destroyed everything with her lies. The DNA results arrived on Thursday afternoon. I got the email at work. I stared at it for an hour before opening it. I finally went out to my car during my lunch break. I opened the email with shaking hands. The report was several pages long. I went straight to the summary. Probability of paternity, 0%. Based on the analysis of genetic testing, the tested male is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. I read that line about 20 times. I knew he wasn't mine, but reading it like that made me even more enraged at the woman I had been sacrificing everything for. But I wouldn't let that rage consume me until it consumed her. I forwarded the PDF to Tyler. The phone rang 2 minutes later. I'm sorry, man. Yeah. What do you want to do? I watched normal people walk in and out of the building. People having normal days with normal problems. I want to burn it all down. Tyler was silent for a second. Okay, let's get you a lawyer. Tyler set me up with 3 consultations with divorce attorneys. I took a personal day and met with all 3. I found a good one and laid out the whole situation for her. She didn't interrupt me once. When I finished, she smiled. We're going to bury her. Legally speaking, it was perfect. She explained the strategy. File for divorce citing adultery. Use the paternity test to establish fraud. File a petition under Texas Family Code Section 161.005 to terminate parental rights based on newly discovered genetic evidence. File everything immediately to avoid estoppel issues, since courts don't like it when men wait years after finding out. Immediately cease all father-son contact except through supervised transitions handled by my lawyer to show I'm not presenting myself as a father while the court ruling is pending. The key is to act fast. You found out 3 weeks ago. You got the DNA test immediately. You're filing now. That timeline shows you didn't sit on this information. Courts respect that. Plus, the newly discovered evidence exception protects you, since you had no way of knowing before because of her deception. One more thing, she said. Don't move any money. Don't make any big purchases. Don't do anything that looks like you're hiding assets. Act completely normal. Let her believe everything is fine until she gets served. Over the next week, I started systematically gathering evidence. I pulled together all our financial documents. I found more credit card charges at that motel going back over a year, restaurant charges from the next town over, gift cards purchased from grocery stores on days I worked late. Those cards were probably going straight to Mark. I checked the amounts. $200 here, $350 there. One time, she bought $500 worth of gift cards at a supermarket while I was at a company dinner. All on our joint credit card, all funding her affair while I paid the bills. I checked our home office. I found a birthday card for Mark in her desk drawer. Written 3 months ago. She had signed it. Love always. H. With a heart. I took pictures of it and put it back exactly where I found it. I started going through shared photo albums. I found pictures from Owen's 3rd birthday party. Mark was in the background of 6 photos. In one, Mark and Heather were standing by the fence. His hand was on her lower back. That casual, possessive touch that isn't quite appropriate, but could be explained away. I found more. 4th of July barbecue 2 years ago. Mark and Heather sitting next to each other. Christmas party at another neighbor's house. Mark handing Heather a gift. Her face lit up. I went through 3 years of photos. Mark appeared in 47 of them. Birthday parties, neighborhood get-togethers, backyard cookouts. Always positioned near Heather. Always with that comfortable familiarity that should have been a red flag. How long had this been going on? Tyler came over while Heather was at work along with his friend Zachary, who owned a security company. You need video evidence. Everything else is circumstantial. You need to catch her on camera. Zachary looked around the house once. Easy install. 3 cameras. She'll never notice. The cameras were built into everyday objects. One in a smoke detector, one in a USB charging station on the kitchen counter, and one in a digital picture frame by the door. All wireless. All streaming to a cloud account. It cost me $800. Worth every penny. Zachary showed me how to access the feeds remotely, how to download the recordings, and how to ensure everything was properly time-stamped and legally admissible. He'd testified in divorce cases before. He knew exactly what the courts needed to see. The following Tuesday, I told Heather I had to go into work early and stay late. I left at 6:30 a.m. Tyler picked me up, and we went to a coffee shop with my laptop. At 10:30 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion alert. Living room camera. I switched to the live feed just in time to see Mark walk through the front door of my house. He walked in using a key to my house. I watched him walk through my living room like he'd done it 100 times. He went straight to the kitchen, opened my fridge, grabbed one of my drinks, settled onto my couch, and turned my TV on to ESPN. The guy was drinking my imported soda in my living room like he paid the mortgage. At 11 a.m., Heather's car pulled up. She walked in the front door. Mark got up. They kissed. It wasn't a hesitant kiss. It was comfortable. A familiar routine. Tyler put his hand on my shoulder. Stay calm. You need the full recording. They moved to the couch. My couch, where just the night before, I had held Owen in my lap building block towers. After 6 minutes, Tyler reached over and paused the feed. You have what you need. You don't have to keep watching. But I did. I needed to burn that image into my brain. I needed to kill whatever small part of me still wanted to believe this was all a huge misunderstanding. They were on that couch for 45 minutes. Heather finally checked her phone to make sure she had time before Owen got out of preschool. She kissed Mark again and started fixing herself up. Mark helped her straighten her shirt and kissed her on the forehead. Then he pulled out his phone and showed her something. She laughed and kissed him again. I zoomed in. He was showing her pictures. Recent pictures of Owen. Owen at the park, Owen eating breakfast, Owen playing. She had been sending Mark pictures of my son, of a boy she probably told him was his. They had been playing house behind my back with a child who wasn't even biologically Mark's. Mark left at 12:30. Heather straightened up the living room, fluffed the couch cushions, sprayed air freshener, took a bottle of the drink and threw it in the outside trash where I wouldn't see it. Professional cover-up. She had done this dozens of times. I downloaded the full recording. I saved it in 3 separate places: cloud storage, an external hard drive, a thumb drive, and a copy with Tyler. No way that evidence was disappearing. I set it to record for the rest of the week. Wednesday through Friday, I caught Mark coming over every single day like clockwork. Same routine, same comfortable familiarity, same professional cleanup afterward. The pattern was undeniable and damning. Each video showed 2 people who had been doing this for so long they'd stopped being careful. They'd gotten sloppy because they thought I was too stupid to notice. Now I had everything. Multiple videos over several days, location data, credit card statements, Message logs showing hundreds of texts. DNA proof that Owen wasn't mine. Every angle was covered. On Friday afternoon, I sent Owen over to Tyler's house for a sleepover with his kids. I told Heather I thought we both needed a quiet night to reconnect. She actually smiled. Probably thought I was over the whole baby thing. I printed everything out. The DNA results, screenshots of the location history, the credit card statements with every motel charge highlighted, stills from the videos showing Mark walking into our house. I put it all in a neat folder on the kitchen table. Heather got home at 6, walked in smiling, and asked where Owen was. I told her he was at Tyler's and pointed to the kitchen table. The folder sat there between us like a bomb. She opened it slowly. The first page was the DNA results, showing 0% paternity. I watched the color drain from her face in real time. She flipped through more pages, the statements with motel charges highlighted in yellow, the text message screenshots, the timestamped video images showing Mark in our living room. Her hands started shaking, but she kept turning the pages, trying to process, trying to understand just how screwed she was. I stayed completely silent, letting the evidence speak for itself. She closed the folder after about 2 minutes and set it down carefully on the table. Her face had gone through about 6 different emotions and landed on something between panic and calculation. Then she asked where I got all of this. I told her that 3 weeks ago, I found out I'm sterile, that I had been for at least 5 years, which made Owen's existence a mathematical impossibility. So I started digging. I got the paternity test, I checked our financial records, I looked at her location history, I installed cameras in the house. I listed it all off like a grocery list. No emotion, no drama. She just sat there, taking it in. I could see her brain working, running scenarios, looking for a way out. The panic left her face and was replaced by something colder, sharper. She leaned back in her chair and actually laughed. Not a nervous laugh, but a bitter one. She said she didn't know. She had no idea I was shooting blanks that whole time. She said if she had known, she would have been more careful, would have played her cards differently, but she managed to fool me without even trying. She said it was almost funny if you thought about it. The arrogance in her voice was something else. She kept talking. She said I was acting like she'd committed a murder, when really this was just life. People have affairs, marriages break up. It happens every day. She said I needed to get over myself and think practically about Owen's care, because that's what really mattered. I stayed quiet. I let her dig her own grave. She told me I'd signed the birth certificate, that I'd been his legal father for 4 years. She said her lawyer had already confirmed that I couldn't just walk away because my ego was bruised, that the court would see me as Owen's father regardless of biology, that I'd be writing child support checks whether I liked it or not. Her confidence was growing with every sentence, like she'd already won the argument in her head. She got up and started pacing. She said Owen needed expensive therapies and special programs. Thousands of dollars every month. She asked if I really wanted to be the guy who abandoned a special needs child. She said everyone would know. My family, my friends, my coworkers. Everyone would know I bailed on a 4-year-old autistic boy because I was mad at his mom. She wrapped the thread in concern, made it sound reasonable. She said I could hate her all I wanted, but Owen's care didn't stop. So maybe we should talk about reasonable support amounts instead of me pretending I could just disappear. She was already calculating numbers. She mentioned $2,500 a month as a starting point. She said she was being generous considering Owen's medical expenses. She claimed most courts would order double, as if she were doing me a favor by only demanding half my paycheck. I got up and walked into the living room. She followed me. I pointed up at the smoke detector on the ceiling without a word, then at the USB charging station on the kitchen counter, and then at the digital picture frame by the door. I watched the realization hit her face. I told her I had 47 hours of footage in total. Her and Mark in this house, on our couch, in our kitchen, all time-stamped, all saved in multiple locations, including a cloud storage that my lawyer already had access to. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. I laid it all out for her, systematically. The DNA test proved Owen wasn't mine. My medical records proved I'd been sterile for years. The credit card statements proved marital waste on the affair. The text messages proved constant communication. The location data proved she lied about where she was, and the videos proved she had given another man a key to our house. My lawyer, I said, filed a petition under Texas Family Code Section 161.005 for termination of parental rights based on genetic evidence and newly discovered proof. She filed it 3 days after I got the DNA results to avoid any estoppel arguments. I've already ceased acting as Owen's father through my lawyer to show the court I'm not presenting myself as his dad. All transitions are now lawyer-supervised. Clean timeline, clean case. The confidence drained out of her body like water from a cracked glass. She tried to backtrack. She said the videos didn't prove anything, that Mark was just a friend, that the motel charges could be explained, that maybe the DNA test was wrong, grasping at straws. I pulled out my phone and showed her one 30-second clip. Her and Mark on our couch, clear as day, unmistakable. Then I showed her another clip from Thursday. Mark, eating out of our fridge like he owned the place. She slumped heavily onto the couch, the same couch I had 47 hours of footage of. Her voice got smaller. She asked if I was really going to do this. I told her the papers were already filed. Court date in 6 weeks. She had 30 days to move out. My lawyer was confident about the asset division given the video evidence and the documented marital waste from the money spent on the affair. The house would likely be awarded to me through reimbursement claims, since I'd been paying the mortgage while she squandered joint funds. She tried to cry, her voice breaking, asking how I could just throw away 4 years. Throw away, Owen. I told her she threw it away the first time she let Mark walk through that door. I was just finalizing the paperwork. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. She asked where I was going. Her voice was desperate now. All the arrogance was gone, replaced by panic. To Tyler's, I said. I'm staying there until you're moved out. Don't contact me except through lawyers. She said I couldn't just leave her to deal with this alone. I told her she'd made her choices. It was time to live with them. She tried to block the door. She asked what she was supposed to tell Owen, how she was going to explain that I wasn't coming back. I told her that was her problem. She created this situation. She could figure out how to explain it. I walked out, got in my truck, and drove away. The phone started ringing before I got to the end of the street. 17 calls in the first hour. I didn't answer a single one. I watched them light up the screen. I let everyone go to voicemail. The texts started coming around the 8th call. Long paragraphs about how I was overreacting, that we could work through this, that Owen needed his father, that she made mistakes, but it didn't mean we had to throw everything away. I deleted them without reading past the first line. Heather hired a lawyer within 3 days. She borrowed money from her mother to pay for it. Her lawyer filed counter motions immediately. She requested temporary child support while the divorce was pending. $2,500 a month. She claimed Owen's medical needs required immediate financial assistance and that I had established myself as his legal father regardless of biology. My lawyer countered with the termination petition filed under Section 161.005 and with evidence that I had ceased all parental functions immediately upon discovering the truth. She requested that the temporary support hearing be postponed until the genetic evidence issue was resolved. The judge agreed. No temporary support was ordered pending the main hearing. Heather's lawyer tried again. She filed an emergency motion claiming Owen's therapies were at risk, that his care couldn't be interrupted, and that I had a moral and legal obligation to continue supporting a child I had raised for 4 years. My lawyer responded with the affair evidence. Statements showing Heather had spent $7,000 on her lover while claiming she had no money for Owen's medical bills. It showed she had prioritized motel rooms over her son's therapy. The judge denied that motion, too. The third attempt came 2 weeks later. Heather's lawyer requested 50% of all marital assets plus ongoing child support of $2,000 a month. She filed documents claiming I had been the primary breadwinner and that Heather had sacrificed career opportunities to raise Owen. My lawyer submitted Heather's employment records. She had worked part-time at a boutique by choice. She never attempted full-time employment, never pursued career growth. The sacrifice argument fell apart immediately. Heather tried another strategy. Her lawyer filed a motion claiming emotional distress and requesting I pay for her psychological counseling. She claimed that discovering my infertility had caused her psychological trauma that led her to make poor decisions. My lawyer literally laughed when she showed me that filing. She responded with a motion to dismiss for absurdity. Meanwhile, I started noticing changes in the neighborhood. Heather's car was gone most days. When she was home, she stayed inside. No more casual conversations with neighbors. No more friendly waves. The word had gotten out fast. She got a job as a waitress at a chain restaurant and was fired within 2 weeks. I don't know why, but hey, she got what she deserved. Her social circle evaporated. Friends stopped calling back. Invitations disappeared. She became neighborhood poison. Mark's situation started to unravel, too. His wife, Stacy, got suspicious about his constant availability during her work trips. She hired someone to track his movements and got enough evidence to file for divorce. The court date arrived 6 weeks after I filed. Heather's lawyer tried the struggling single mother strategy. She painted me as the villain abandoning a special needs child. She requested $2,000 a month in child support plus half of all assets. My lawyer presented the medical records proving I was sterile. She showed the DNA test proving zero paternity. She submitted the timely filed termination of parental rights petition under Section 161.005 with the newly discovered evidence exception. She proved that I had immediately stopped presenting myself as a father via lawyer-supervised transitions. Then she presented the infidelity evidence, credit card statements showing $12,000 spent on motels and restaurants. Video recordings of Mark walking into our house with a key. All time-stamped, all irrefutable. The judge looked at Heather with pure contempt. Petition for termination of parental rights granted under Section 161.005. No biological connection, plus immediate filing upon discovery, plus systematic fraud equals zero obligation. Child support obligation is terminated effective immediately, as of today. Then came the asset division. Texas is a community property state, but allows for a fair and just division based on fault. My lawyer presented the marital waste evidence, $12,000 spent on the affair, secret debt accumulated for gifts to her lover. The judge ruled that this spending constituted a dissipation of marital assets. I was awarded the house via reimbursement claims for the mortgage payments made while she squandered joint funds. She was awarded minimal personal property and was held responsible for the $15,000 in hidden debt she had created. No spousal support. Nothing. Gavel down. It was done. Heather tried to approach me in the parking lot. My lawyer stopped her immediately. Mark's situation imploded just as quickly. His wife, Stacy, filed for divorce the week after my cameras caught him. She got the house because it was in her name. She got 70% of their savings. She got his truck. He was left with an old sedan and about $10,000. He moved into a cheap apartment across town, working a telemarketing job, barely making rent. Stacy moved to Florida for work and was promoted within 6 months. Last I heard, she was dating someone new and living her best life. Both Mark and Heather were completely destroyed, exactly what they deserved. Heather couldn't afford to stay in the area. She had to move in with her mother in a small 2-bedroom apartment, working as a waitress in a diner. Her mom watched Owen during most of her shifts because Heather couldn't afford childcare. Mark saw Owen every other weekend through some informal arrangement they'd made, playing house like he was the dad. Heather kept telling him he probably was. I found out through mutual contacts who thought I should know. Mark had started acting like Owen's father. He took him to the park, bought him toys, posted pictures online like they were a family. Heather encouraged it because she needed the financial help. Then, Tyler called me about 8 months later. You're not going to believe this. Heather just filed a paternity suit against Mark, demanding child support. I actually laughed. Good luck with that. Mark initially resisted, but eventually agreed to the DNA test. He probably figured it was easier to prove paternity once and for all than to keep fighting. Maybe he really wanted Owen to be his. Maybe he felt guilty. Maybe Heather convinced him. The results came back 3 weeks later. Probability of paternity, 0%. Mark wasn't Owen's father either. I heard about it from Tyler. Apparently, Mark had a complete meltdown. He'd been operating under the assumption that Owen was his kid. He'd been feeling guilty. He'd started to build a relationship with the boy, and now he finds out he wasn't his either. Which meant that Owen's actual biological father was a third person, someone else Heather had slept with during that same time period 5 years ago. Nobody knew who it was. Maybe someone from work, maybe another neighbor, maybe someone from the gym, maybe a random hookup. It could have been anyone. Both Mark and I had been played and used. She had been with at least 3 different men and had no idea which one got her pregnant. Mark's lawyer sent Heather's lawyer a blistering letter, threatening to countersue for fraud and a list of other claims. Heather dropped the case immediately. Now she was completely broke. A single mother with a special needs child who required expensive care, living in her mother's spare room, drowning in debt, with no child support from anyone, because nobody knew who Owen's biological father was. Her reputation was destroyed. Her family barely spoke to her. The confident woman who had sat in our kitchen telling me I was going to pay one way or another now couldn't get a dime from anyone. By this time, Owen was 6, and his mother couldn't tell him who his real father was because she genuinely didn't know. That is karma in its purest form. Apparently, Mark had another breakdown after that. He quit his job and moved to Arizona. Stacy had already taken everything in the divorce. Last I heard, he was doing odd jobs out there. Nobody from the old neighborhood kept in touch. I sold the house 8 months after the divorce was finalized. Too many bad memories. Too many rooms where I'd been living a lie. I got a good price for it. The market was strong. I walked away with a nice profit after paying off the mortgage. I used some of that money to upgrade everything. Better car, better clothes, better life. I ran into an old friend of Heather's at the grocery store about a year later. She tried to make small talk. Asked how I was doing. I said, great. New place, better job, moving on. She made a weird face. She said she'd heard all about it, that she always thought Heather and I were the perfect couple, that she never saw it coming. I shrugged. Neither did I. She asked if I ever heard from Heather, if I knew how Owen was doing. I told her no. Not my kid, not my problem. She got uncomfortable, like I'd said something inappropriate, like I was still supposed to care about a child that wasn't mine and a woman who had spent years lying to my face. She changed the subject quickly after that. About a year after everything was finalized, I had the surgery. I figured why not? The blockage was fixable, and now I had the money because I wasn't funding someone else's lies anymore. The procedure took 2 hours. Recovery was 3 weeks. Follow-up tests confirmed it worked. 70% success rate, and I landed on the right side of it. I met Erin 6 months later. She worked in logistics for a shipping company. No drama, no games, just straightforward and real. I told her everything on our third date. The whole story, the sterility diagnosis, the paternity fraud, the divorce, the videos, everything. She didn't flinch. In fact, she thanked me for being honest up front. She said she respected a man who learns from experience instead of pretending it never happened. That's when I knew she was different. We dated for a year before we got engaged. No rush, no pressure, just two people building something real based on actual honesty instead of convenient lies. We got married last fall. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. No one from the old neighborhood. A fresh start with people who actually mattered. Erin is 3 months pregnant now. We found out 6 weeks ago. The first thing I said was, we're getting a paternity test after the birth. It's non-negotiable. She nodded immediately. Makes perfect sense after what you've been through. I'd actually be worried if you didn't want one. That's the difference between a real partner and someone playing games. Real partners understand that trusting doesn't mean being stupid. Erin understands that protecting yourself isn't the same as doubting her. We bought a house in a better area. 3 bedrooms, good schools nearby, a real backyard. Nothing like the old house, no negative memories in any room. I have a better job now too. I switched companies about a year and a half after the divorce. A 30% pay bump. Better benefits. I work from home 2 days a week. I actually enjoy what I do instead of dreading every shift. I bought a boat last month. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. We take it out on the weekends with Erin. Just us and the water. Peace. Sometimes I think about that confrontation in the kitchen. Heather sitting there telling me I was going to pay regardless, that everyone would judge me, that I couldn't just walk away, that Owen's needs meant I was trapped forever. She was wrong about absolutely everything. The court terminated my parental obligations the day the judge signed the order. It was effective immediately. I proved I stopped acting as a father the second I found out. Clean case with newly discovered evidence. I never paid a cent of support after that hearing. No one judged me. Everyone who knows the real story took my side immediately. The only ones with opinions were strangers on the internet who don't matter. And yes, I could absolutely walk away. I walked away. Best decision I ever made. Meanwhile, Heather is still working at that diner. Still living in her mother's spare room. Still unable to tell her own son who his father is because she legitimately does not know. Messing around with multiple men and being surprised when consequences show up. The confident woman who threatened me with child support now can't get a dime from anyone. I'm over here, married to someone real, a house with no ghosts, a job I actually like, a baby on the way that is definitively mine. Voting on the weekends. Some men get trapped forever. They keep paying, they keep sacrificing, they keep believing things will get better if they just try harder. Not me. I chose freedom. I chose dignity. I chose a future built on truth instead of lies. And it feels incredible. Comment. Facing a painful truth is one of the hardest things we can do. Your next step defines everything that comes after. I believe setting a firm boundary is not an act of anger, but an act of profound self-respect. It is you telling yourself that you deserve honesty and peace. You cannot control other people's choices, but you always have control over your own response. True healing often begins when we stop trying to fix what is broken and start building something new. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to choose to walk toward a healthier future. Remember that you have the right to choose peace over pain. Your dignity is not negotiable. I hope you always find the strength to protect it. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.